If you own nothing, every raise is just a more comfortable permission slip. You can make more money and still remain controlled if the structure around you has not changed. One employer decides whether you earn. One client decides whether you survive. One platform decides whether people can see you. The false belief is that higher income automatically means freedom. It does not. Income reduces pressure. Ownership changes who holds power after the work is done. The hidden mechanism is control of distribution, access, proof, and value capture. If those belong to someone else, your skill may be valuable, but your future is still rented. The counter-trap is not to reject jobs, clients, or platforms. Use them, but extract something that remains yours. Proof, systems, audience trust, direct access, intellectual property, assets that compound. Workers ask what they get paid. Builders ask what they still own when the transaction ends. And that question is not theory. George Lucas proved it when he gave up higher upfront money for rights. Sara proved it when she kept ownership before the world validated her. The brutal question is this: after your work is finished, are you holding an asset or just a memory of being paid? Most men do not want to answer that question because it threatens the story they tell themselves. They say they are doing well because they earn more than before. They say they are moving up because the title changed. They say they are becoming free because the paycheck is larger. But a larger paycheck inside a structure you do not control is not freedom. It is a better room inside the same building. The door still belongs to someone else. A man can have a salary and still own no future. He can have clients and still own no market. He can have followers and still own no access. He can have attention and still own no audience. He can be useful every day and still build nothing that survives the moment he stops working. This is why the question is not, how much do you earn? The question is, what do you control? Because if your income depends on one employer, your future can be interrupted by one meeting. If your business depends on one client, your month can collapse after one message. If your reputation exists only inside one company, it can disappear the moment your badge stops working. If your audience exists only on one platform, your reach can be reduced by one algorithmic change. If your authority exists only because someone else gave you a title, you do not own authority. You rented status. Machiavelli understood this long before modern employment, social media, creator platforms, and corporate ladders existed. In The Prince, he wrote, "Nothing can be so uncertain or unstable as fame or power not founded on its own strength." That is the law. If your power depends entirely on someone else's system, your power is conditional, and conditional power is still permission. Look at George Lucas. Before Star Wars became a cultural empire, Lucas was not negotiating from unlimited certainty. He was under studio pressure. The film was risky. The studio controlled distribution. The safe move would have been to take more money up front, take the directing fee, accept the clean transaction, and walk away with income. That is what most men would have done. Not because they are stupid, because immediate money is seductive when you do not yet have security. A man under pressure does not naturally think like an owner. He thinks like a survivor. He wants cash now. He wants relief now. He wants proof now. He wants the world to stop threatening him now. But Lucas made a colder move. He gave up a higher directing fee and took merchandising and sequel rights. That was not just a business decision. That was an ownership decision. The pressure was simple. Take cash now or control value later. The average worker chooses cash now because cash feels real and future value feels imaginary. The builder sees something different. He sees that the money paid for the work is not always the most valuable part of the work. Sometimes the most valuable part is what the work can become after the first transaction ends. Star Wars did not remain only a movie. It became toys, products, sequels, licensing, characters, games, stories, and a universe people could buy into again and again. That is the distinction most men miss. The employee gets paid for the scene. The owner gets paid for the world. Years later, Disney acquired Lucasfilm for billions. Not because Lucas had once worked hard on a film. Millions of people work hard. Hard work alone does not explain power. Disney paid because Lucas owned an asset that could keep producing value across movies, products, games, parks, and generations. Income paid once. Ownership kept speaking after the work was finished. Now look at Sara Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She started with limited money, no elite business background, and no major institution opening doors. She was not protected by a powerful family network. She was not walking into the market with unlimited credibility. She was selling fax machines door to door. She had an idea, but no empire. She had a problem to solve, but no army waiting to validate her. Most people in that position try to get saved by outside approval. They wait for someone important to believe in them. They wait for capital. They wait for permission. They wait for a more perfect environment. They wait until the family understands. They wait until friends stop doubting. They wait until their confidence becomes strong enough to act. But waiting for validation is how potential rots. Sara Blakely did something else. She built the first version. She wrote her own patent. She kept ownership. She turned one problem into one product into proof, and proof into a company. The first proof was not applause, it was demand. Years later, Blackstone bought a majority stake in Spanx at a valuation of over $1 billion. The lesson is not that everyone becomes George Lucas or Sara Blakely. That is a childish reading. The real lesson is colder. Both understood the same law: do not merely get paid, capture value. Because if you do not capture value, someone else will. Someone else will own the customer relationship. Someone else will own the distribution. Someone else will own the intellectual property. Someone else will own the platform. Someone else will own the audience. Someone else will own the system. Someone else will own the proof created by your labor. And then you will look back after years of effort and realize you were not building freedom. You were helping another structure become stronger. This is where unsupported men get trapped. They think the only question is, how do I make more money? That question matters. A man who dismisses income is lying to himself. Money reduces pressure. Money buys time. Money creates options. Money protects you from humiliation. Money gives you space to think. Money matters. But income is not identical to control. A higher salary can reduce pain while preserving dependence. A larger client can increase revenue while increasing fragility. A growing platform can bring attention while deepening addiction to permission. A better title can increase status while keeping the foundation rented. This is why some men earn more and feel no freer. They are not imagining it. They make more money, but they have no direct access, no audience, no intellectual property, no repeatable system, no public proof, no owned process, no savings that create optionality, no asset that compounds without their constant presence. They are not poor in income, they are poor in control, and control is the real currency beneath money. A man with income but no control can be threatened. A man with skill but no proof can be ignored. A man with attention but no access can be erased. A man with clients but no system can be exhausted. A man with a job but no alternatives can be managed by fear. This is the part nobody wants to say clearly. If one decision can destroy your life, you are not independent. You may be paid. You may be praised. You may be useful. You may be respected inside the room. But if one gatekeeper can remove your income, your access, your visibility, or your reputation, then your power is conditional. And conditional power always creates hidden obedience. You become careful. You start editing yourself. You stop negotiating sharply. You avoid risks. You tolerate disrespect longer than you should. You confuse loyalty with lack of alternatives. You stay grateful for access because you know the access is not yours. That is how men become domesticated by structures they pretend to control. Machiavelli warned that the arms of others either fall from your back, or they weigh you down, or they bind you fast. Translate that into modern life. The employer's platform is the arms of others. The client's audience is the arms of others. The social media algorithm is the arms of others. The company's reputation is the arms of others. The rented office, rented title, rented status, rented attention, rented access, all of it can fall from your back, weigh you down, or bind you fast. This does not mean you reject them. Only fools reject useful tools because they do not own them. The strategist uses borrowed power while building owned power underneath it. That is the difference between the worker and the builder. The worker asks, "What can I get from this?" The builder asks, "What can I extract from this that remains mine?" A job can give you income, but can you also extract skill? A client can give you payment, but can you also extract proof? A platform can give you attention, but can you also extract trust? A project can give you experience, but can you also extract a process? A failure can give you pain, but can you also extract intelligence? This is the doctrine. Do not leave empty-handed. Most men spend years inside systems and leave with nothing but exhaustion. No documented skill, no body of work, no case studies, no direct relationships, no audience, no offer, no asset, no leverage. They were busy, but nothing was captured. That is the tragedy of labor without ownership. And if this truth is hitting the part of you that knows you have been working but not capturing, do not just listen passively. Write down one thing you are currently doing that produces income, attention, or experience, and ask yourself what can be extracted from it that remains yours. A proof file, a case study, a process, a contact list, a repeatable offer, a piece of intellectual property, a content library. Do it now, because understanding without capture becomes another form of entertainment. Here is the colder truth. An asset is not simply something that makes money. An asset is something that preserves, compounds, or transfers value beyond one moment of effort. That definition matters because men love to mislabel things. A skill is not yet an asset if nobody can see it. A service is not yet an asset if every sale depends on personal begging. A YouTube channel is not fully an asset if all access depends on an algorithm you do not control. A reputation is not an asset if it exists only inside one company. A process is not an asset if it lives only inside your head. A product is not an asset if no one wants it. A network is not an asset if nobody trusts you enough to act. This is why the word ownership must become more precise. Ownership is not just possession. Ownership is control of future value. If you cannot use it, move it, improve it, protect it, prove it, distribute it, or compound it, your ownership is weak. You may own a tool, but not a system. You may own a profile, but not an audience. You may own an idea, but not intellectual property. You may own knowledge, but not proof. You may own ambition, but not leverage. The unsupported man cannot afford vague ambition. He cannot afford to say, "I am building something," when nothing is actually accumulating. He cannot afford to confuse effort with ownership, motion with progress, attention with access, or income with sovereignty. He has to become ruthless with the question, what remains? After the shift ends, what remains? After the client pays, what remains? After the post gets views, what remains? After the project is delivered, what remains? After the rejection happens, what remains? After the year passes, what remains? If the answer is nothing but fatigue, then you are not building, you are only enduring. And endurance without capture is not strategy. It is slow depletion. This is why ownership has to be built in layers. Most beginners fail because they want the palace before they have laid one stone. They want the media company, the product suite, the private community, the investment portfolio, the software tool, the personal brand, the high-ticket offer, the automated machine, all before they have created one reliable unit of proof. That is not ambition. That is avoidance dressed as vision. A serious man builds the ladder. The first stage is skill. You can create value, not imagined value, not potential value, not the version of yourself you discuss at night when you feel inspired. Real value. Something that solves a problem, improves a condition, reduces pain, saves time, creates clarity, increases income, or changes an outcome for another human being. This is where most unsupported men must begin, not with fantasies of passive income, not with pretending to be investors before they can produce anything worth investing in, not with talking about empire when they have not mastered one craft. Skill is the first weapon, but skill alone is not enough. The second stage is service. You exchange that skill for money. This is where reality begins to test you. The market does not care about your private identity. It does not care that you feel misunderstood. It does not care that your family doubted you. It does not care that your friends did not support you. The market asks one question: can you produce value someone is willing to pay for? That question humiliates fantasies. Good. A strategic man wants the humiliation of reality before the comfort of delusion. Service forces your skill out of your head and into the world. It reveals whether your ability matters. It reveals whether your communication is clear. It reveals whether your offer is strong. It reveals whether people trust you enough to act. But here is where many men stop. They get paid, feel relief, and mistake relief for power. That is the trap. The third stage is process. You stop improvising and start repeating. A man without process is always dependent on mood, energy, pressure, and emergency. He may perform well sometimes, but he cannot reliably reproduce the result. And if he cannot reproduce the result, he cannot scale trust. He cannot delegate. He cannot teach. He cannot package. He cannot improve with precision. A process turns personal ability into structured capability. You document how results are produced. You identify the steps. You remove waste. You name the standards. You track the inputs. You control the output. You stop being a man who occasionally wins and become a man who understands why he wins. That is the beginning of leverage. The fourth stage is audience or distribution. You gain the ability to reach people repeatedly, not randomly, not once, not only when the algorithm is generous, repeatedly. Distribution matters because hidden value is often treated as non-existent value. You can be skilled, useful, disciplined, and intelligent, but if nobody sees evidence of it, the market has no reason to update its judgment. This is the wound of the unsupported man. He believes he is more than the world has evidence to believe. And sometimes he is right. But the world does not reward what it cannot verify. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." Modern translation: the world does not reward your invisible potential. It responds to visible evidence. So build evidence. Build proof. Build something that lets the world see what you are before you have to explain it. The fifth stage is product, intellectual property, or system. Now value is captured in something transferable, repeatable, packaged, sellable, teachable, licensable, or scalable. This is where labor begins to detach from your immediate presence. Not completely, not magically, not in the fake passive income fantasy sold to desperate men. But structurally, a guide can teach when you are not speaking. A course can package knowledge. A template can transfer process. A software tool can remove repeated pain. A documented system can be applied again. A brand can carry trust. A content library can keep attracting attention. Intellectual property can keep creating options after the original work ends. This is not escape from work. This is work that leaves behind a machine. The sixth stage is a portfolio of assets. No single employer, client, platform, or market controls your entire life. That is sovereignty. Not isolation. Not arrogance. Not pretending you need no one. Total self-sufficiency is often just fear wearing armor. Sovereignty means your survival is no longer held hostage by one decision from one gatekeeper. You can lose a client and not collapse. You can lose reach and still have direct access. You can leave a company and still have proof. You can change markets and still carry skill. You can fail at one offer and still possess the system that helps you build another. That is the real game. Not becoming untouchable. Becoming harder to trap. But to become harder to trap, you must stop calling everything an asset just because it feels valuable to you. A real asset must be tested. The first test is control. Can you decide how it is used? If one company can erase it, your control is limited. If one platform can block it, your control is limited. If one manager can bury it, your control is limited. If one client can take the result and leave you with no proof, your control is limited. This does not mean the thing has no value. It means you must not lie about what it is. A social media account can be useful, but the platform controls the ground beneath your feet. A job title can create status, but the company controls the context that gives the title meaning. A client project can create income, but if you cannot show the result, document the process, or use the lesson, then the value escaped your hands. The question is not, does this help me now? The question is, what part of this can I still control after the transaction ends? The second test is portability. Can it survive a change of employer, client, platform, or location? If your reputation dies the moment you leave the company, you did not own reputation. You rented proximity. If your authority disappears when the boss stops introducing you, you did not own authority. You borrowed credibility. If your income collapses because one client leaves, you did not own a business. You owned a dependency with invoices. Portability is what lets a man move without becoming nobody again. A portable skill follows you. A portable process follows you. A portable body of work follows you. A portable audience follows you. A portable offer follows you. A portable proof file follows you. This matters because life will force movement. Companies change. Markets shift. Clients disappear. Algorithms change. Friends withdraw. Families misunderstand. Industries get repriced. Technology attacks comfortable skills. If everything you have only works inside one structure, then the structure owns your future. The third test is compounding. Does yesterday's work make tomorrow's result easier, stronger, faster, or more credible? If every day begins from zero, you are trapped in labor. This is the silent prison of many ambitious men. They work, they push, they stay busy, they sacrifice evenings, they tell themselves they are grinding, but nothing accumulates. No proof library, no repeatable system, no audience trust, no refined offer, no documented process, no asset that becomes stronger because of previous effort. They are exhausted, but not compounded. That is a dangerous difference. Compounding is when one video strengthens the next video. One case study strengthens the next sale. One process improves the next delivery. One customer insight sharpens the next offer. One proof point reduces the next objection. One relationship creates future access. One piece of intellectual property creates repeated use. Without compounding, effort is consumed. With compounding, effort becomes structure. The fourth test is direct access. Can you reach the people who trust you without depending completely on an intermediary? This is why an email list, customer list, community, private network, or direct relationship matters. It is not vanity, it is not nostalgia. It is access. A platform can give you reach, but reach is not the same as access. Reach means the platform may show people your work. Access means you can reach them again. Reach is borrowed. Access is closer to ownership. This is why so many creators, freelancers, coaches, consultants, and builders remain fragile even when they look successful. They have attention, but no access. They have views, but no relationship. They have followers, but no trust. They can activate outside the platform. They have visibility, but no capture. Attention without capture is wind. It passes through your hands and leaves you with numbers you cannot control. The fifth test is transferability. Can this create value beyond 1 hour of your personal labor? If the answer is no, then you may still have income, but you do not yet have leverage. Transferability does not mean you stop working. It means some part of your work can move, teach, sell, repeat, guide, package, or operate without requiring your direct effort every second. A documented process is transferable. A product is transferable. A template is transferable. A course is transferable. Software is transferable. Intellectual property is transferable. A content library is transferable. A brand is transferable. A system is transferable. A trusted method is transferable. The unsupported man must care about transferability because he cannot afford to trade every ounce of life for every dollar forever. He needs parts of his effort to outlive the moment. Not every asset passes every test at the beginning. That is normal. A beginner should not use these tests to feel ashamed. He should use them to locate weakness. And a strategic man wants exposure. Comfort hides weakness. Framework reveals it. If your asset has no control, you know what to strengthen. If it has no portability, you know what to detach from the gatekeeper. If it does not compound, you know what to document. If it has no direct access, you know what to capture. If it has no transferability, you know what to package. This is how you stop drowning in vague ambition and start building with precision. Now the next question becomes more dangerous. What asset should you build first? Because the beginner loves giant plans. He wants the business ecosystem, the media company, the investment portfolio, the personal brand, the product suite, the private community, the high-ticket offer, the automation machine. He wants the palace before he has laid one stone. That is not ambition. That is avoidance dressed as vision. Your first asset should be small enough to build, close enough to your current skill, and real enough to receive feedback. If you can write, build a content library around one painful problem. If you can edit, build a repeatable service system with public before and after proof. If you understand a niche, build a newsletter that earns trust through insight. If you can teach, build a small digital product solving one specific problem. If you can code, build a simple tool that removes one repeated frustration. If you have client experience, build a documented operating process that produces a measurable result. If you are using YouTube, understand this clearly. You do not own YouTube. YouTube is the battlefield. The asset is the combination of content, trust, proof, brand, direct audience access, offers and systems built around the attention. Use the platform. Do not let the platform become the entire foundation. A platform can give you reach, but reach without capture is wind. Attention without trust is noise. Trust without access is fragile. Access without offer is wasted. Offer without proof is weak. Proof without system is difficult to repeat. This is why content must become more than posting. Content must become an ownership machine. Attention becomes trust. Trust becomes proof. Proof becomes offers. Offers become revenue. Revenue becomes optionality. Optionality becomes freedom. That is how the unsupported man turns visibility into leverage. Most men post because they want to be seen. The builder posts because he is constructing proof in public. Most men chase views because views feel like validation. The builder studies views as market feedback. Most men disappear when the algorithm ignores them. The builder asks what was captured even when the views were low. Did he clarify his thinking? Did he produce a reusable asset? Did he learn what the audience responds to? Did he create proof? Did he build a sharper offer? Did he collect a question that can become the next video? Did he move one step closer to direct access? This is the difference between a man who uses platforms and a man who is used by them. The man who only posts is waiting on the algorithm. The man who builds a system is creating leverage. This is why Build Wealth with YouTube exists. It shows you how to turn content into attention, trust, proof, offers, and monetization. Do not merely post on a platform. Build a system around the attention you create. If you are serious about turning visibility into ownership, take the next step and start building the structure behind the content, not just the content itself. Now let us make this practical. For the next 90 days, build one small asset connected to one real problem, not 10 assets, not a fantasy empire, not a vague brand. One asset, one problem, one audience, one output. Days 1 to 15, choose one audience problem and one owned output. Do not choose what sounds impressive. Choose what you can actually build: a guide, a content series, a service process, a newsletter, a template, a simple offer, a documented system, a small product, a proof library. The question is not, what would make me look successful? The question is, what can I build that solves one problem and leaves evidence behind? Choose a problem you understand because you have lived near it, solved part of it, studied it deeply, or helped someone through it. Choose a group of people you can reach. Choose an output you can produce without waiting for perfect conditions. If you need $1 million to begin, you are not planning. You are hiding. If you need a team to begin, you are hiding. If you need everyone to believe first, you are hiding. If you need perfect confidence, you are hiding. Start where ownership can actually begin. Small enough to build, real enough to test, specific enough to matter. Days 16 to 30, create the first version and expose it to reality. Reality means other people see it. Not your imagination, not your private notes, not your perfect future version. Publish it, offer it, test it, show it, send it, sell it. Measure response. Most unsupported men stay trapped because they are always preparing to become visible later. Later, when the brand is better. Later, when the skill is cleaner. Later, when the website is finished. Later, when the family understands. Later, when the confidence arrives. Later, when they are no longer afraid of judgment. But the world cannot reward evidence you refuse to expose. Your private improvement does not change your public position until it becomes visible proof. Days 31 to 60, produce consistently, gather feedback, and document proof. Track what people respond to. Track objections. Track questions. Track results. Track screenshots. Track testimonials if they are earned. Track before and after. Track what improves. This stage matters because proof is not only created by success, proof is also created by disciplined contact with reality. You learn what people ignore. You learn what they repeat. You learn what they ask for. You learn what they misunderstand. You learn what they pay for. You learn what they praise but do not buy. You learn what creates trust. You learn what creates doubt. That intelligence becomes part of the asset. Unsupported men often stay invisible because they do not document evidence. They suffer privately, work privately, improve privately, and then wonder why the world does not update its judgment. The world updates when proof becomes visible. Days 61 to 90, connect the asset to direct access or an offer. If you are building content, create an email list. If you are building a service, create a clear offer. If you are building a product, create a feedback loop. If you are building a process, turn it into a case study. If you are building a reputation, make the evidence easy to inspect. Track outputs completed. Track audience response. Track leads. Track inquiries. Track repeat usage. Track improvements. Track evidence created. This is how a man moves from vague ambition to visible proof. And visible proof is the beginning of leverage. But understand this clearly. The purpose of the 90-day project is not to make you rich in 90 days. That is childish. The purpose is to end the lie that you are waiting because you need more permission. You do not need permission to document a process. You do not need permission to publish useful insight. You do not need permission to build a proof file. You do not need permission to create a simple offer. You do not need permission to collect audience questions. You do not need permission to turn your skill into something visible. You need structure. You need repetition. You need feedback. You need courage disciplined enough to survive being unseen at first. That is the real test. Can you build when applause is absent? Can you produce when nobody is validating the identity you want? Can you keep extracting proof when the world still treats you as ordinary? Can you stop using lack of support as an explanation for lack of evidence? This is where the worker dies and the builder begins. The worker waits to be rewarded. The builder captures what reward misses. The worker wants a raise. The builder wants a raise and a reputation. The worker wants a client. The builder wants a client and a case study. The worker wants views. The builder wants views and direct access. The worker wants income. The builder wants income and an asset. The worker asks, how much will they pay me? The builder asks, what will remain mine after the transaction ends? That question will change the way you move. You will stop wasting years inside systems without extracting proof. You will stop letting platforms turn your effort into rented attention. You will stop confusing salary with sovereignty. You will stop believing that being useful to someone else automatically makes you powerful. You will stop saying you are building when nothing is being captured. Use jobs, use clients, use platforms, use institutions. Use every gate that opens. But extract ownership while you pass through. Because the unsupported man cannot afford to only earn. He must build what compounds. He cannot afford invisible effort. He must build proof. He cannot afford borrowed access. He must build direct relationships. He cannot afford dependence disguised as loyalty. He must build alternatives. He cannot afford motivation that disappears after the video ends. He must build structure. This is the final distinction. A man who owns nothing must keep asking, can I keep my job? Can I get the client? Can I be promoted? Can I be seen? Can I be approved? Can I be recommended? Can I be chosen? But ownership changes the posture of the man. He stops asking to be chosen and starts building what makes choosing him rational. He stops begging for belief and creates evidence. He stops explaining his potential and shows proof. He stops resenting gatekeepers and builds leverage against them. He stops treating platforms like saviors and uses them as battlegrounds. He stops waiting for support and constructs something support can no longer ignore. Income reduces pressure. Ownership changes dependence. The worker asks what he will be paid. The builder asks what will remain his after the transaction ends. But there is one final trap. Many men start building online and still create nothing they control. They post, wait, refresh, and call it leverage while the platform owns the access. They become addicted to visibility but never convert visibility into trust, proof, offers, systems, or direct relationships. So the next question is not, how do I get views? The next question is, how do I turn attention into proof, access, offers, and assets? If you are building with YouTube, do not merely post and wait for the algorithm to choose you. Build the machine behind the attention. Build the content library. Build the proof. Build the trust. Build the offer. Build the direct access. Build wealth with YouTube is designed for that exact purpose, to help you turn content into leverage, not just activity. If this is the road you are choosing, move now. Do not let another year become a collection of uploads with no own structure behind them. Machiavelli said, "Men who rise by fortune have little trouble rising, but much trouble holding what they gain." Modern men do the same. They rise on borrowed access, borrowed platforms, borrowed titles, borrowed audiences, borrowed approval. Then the structure changes, and they discover they never owned the foundation. Do not become that man. Do not become the man who worked for years and captured nothing. Do not become the man who earned more but controlled nothing. Do not become the man who was useful to everyone except his own future. Do not become the man who had attention but no access, skill but no proof, effort but no asset, ambition but no structure. If you own nothing, every raise is still a permission slip. If you capture nothing, every victory is temporary. If you build nothing that remains, every year must be purchased again with your labor. So build something that stays. Build proof that survives the job. Build trust that survives the platform. Build a process that survives your mood. Build an offer that survives one client. Build access that survives one algorithm. Build an asset that survives one transaction. Build something the gatekeeper cannot take away with one decision.